What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react to some stereotypes that Norwegians really hate. So, as an American, I can say that I do know what it's like to have a lot of stereotypes about you. Americans have a lot of stereotypes that a lot of people around the world say that we are all fat and rude and that we're all stupid and ignorant. And obviously, that is way too much of an overgeneralization, and it's just not true for a lot of Americans. So today, I really want to take a look at this list and learn about the stereotypes that are not true about Norway. So let's take a look at some of these, starting with the land of always winter. Is this annoying? This misconception that Norway, and really, I think most Americans think Scandinavia and all of Northern Europe. A lot of us think that it's just always frozen and cold and winter. And yeah, this is definitely something that a lot of Americans think about Norway. That it's like always cold. Norway is famous for its winters. The country's mountainous terrain and northern location make it great for skiing and winter activity. You guys are great at the Winter Olympics. But Norwegians have their fair share of delightfully warm, dry weather, too. Yeah, I have to admit, I didn't know anything about this until this year, where not that long ago I heard about the weather in Norway. Right now, Norway is having one of its hottest years like ever, right? You guys are having a huge heat wave. And I was like, what? Norway can be hot? I had no idea. I think a lot of Americans think that way. Norway is Europe's longest country, so expect to find a lot of diversity. That's another thing that I didn't realize, that Norway is so big and so long. So northern Norway can be a completely different temperature to southern Norway. Summer in the south can reach 30 degrees. That's 86 Fahrenheit. That is hot. That is hot. Norway can be, especially southern Norway. And thanks to the warming powers of the Gulf Stream, there are plenty of beaches and ice cream stands in the summer months. Yeah, I thought Norwegians like went on vacation to other countries to, I guess that's in the winter. But in the summertime, Norway, it sounds like Norway is totally fine. At least a lot of parts of Norway. Like if you get up to 30 Celsius, 86 Fahrenheit, that's beautiful. That's hot. I didn't know you guys had beaches and ice cream. Like, yeah, it sounds like exactly like here in the United States. So I think a lot of people tend to exaggerate Norway's climate and say like it's always winter and cold. And it's not true. Yeah, you got beaches. Wow. Norwegians never feel cold. This is like when, okay, there is a stereotype that Norwegians are like all Vikings and all like hardened, like, and don't even notice the winter and the cold. So you guys do feel cold. Like, it is annoying being cold, even for Norwegians. Of course Norwegians get cold. They are human. Right? It's like people think Norwegians aren't humans. They just deal with cold better than others. By taking appropriate measures, that's right, by insulating your house, heating your house, and wearing lots of layers of clothing. So Norwegians are humans, just like everyone else. Shocker. Um, But you guys have figured out how to tolerate the cold a lot better. And you guys are a lot smarter and more aware with clothing and layers. And it's not like you guys just naturally don't feel cold. You guys have to put effort into it to adjust to the. That makes sense. And Norwegians deserve like more credit for that. Norwegians ski everywhere, including the shops. Okay, I gotta be honest. Is this a stereotype? I thought this was true. I thought this was true. Like I've seen video clips, I've seen TikToks of Norwegians skiing, like to the store. I thought that is this a stereotype? I thought this was true. Most people walk, bicycle, or drive, though some people use skis or sleighs to get to school. Okay. Huh. I actually was starting to think Norwegians skied everywhere, especially if there's snow. I think it's cool. Like this is not a bad stereotype. Like, you know what another stereotype of Norway is? That Norwegians are all like 7 feet tall and have blonde hair and are beautiful. Like, Norway has some good stereotypes. You guys are great at skiing. I think that's true. That's not even an exaggeration. Maybe you guys don't ski everywhere. You do walk or bicycle or drive. Okay. So that's more realistic. All right. Polar bears roam free. Yeah. There are actually Americans who think some of the northern countries like Canada and Norway, there are a lot of Americans who think that polar bears just wander around. I didn't think, especially in like a Norwegian town or a developed area, I assume you don't have polar bears walking around. This one seems to irk Norwegians the most. While it would be very exciting to have a polar bear pop up in your Norwegian deli, polar bears only live in the wild on Svalbard, which is very, very north. This is not to say mainland Norwegian wildlife is boring. Small populations of brown bears and wolves and reindeer and moose are common, but not so you guys have a lot of cool animals, a lot of different animals than here in the United States. Reindeer and but you don't have polar bears, and they're actually an endangered species, so it's actually very silly. I understand it's pretty silly to think polar bears are just wandering all around Norway when they're like endangered and aren't even native to that area. It's like Svalbard and stuff, right? Okay, so this is an annoying stereotype just because it's factually incorrect. Okay. All Nor Oh boy, this is on the list. All Norwegians are tall, blonde, and blue-eyed. This isn't a stereotype? This isn't true? Okay, this is probably the biggest stereotype Americans have about Norway. And I don't know. I hope I'm not being insulting here by saying, isn't this a good stereotype that you're beautiful, big people? Now, I could see where all right, if I'm being honest, I understand. This is annoying. If you are Norwegian and you don't look like this is probably very disrespectful. So I get that. Let's face it, compared to a lot of countries, there are a lot of tall, blonde people in Norway, but you'll find plenty of non-blonde Norwegians too. Huh. This idea is just based on the idea that Norway is isolated and homogenous, but Norway has important minority populations as well, and indigenous people, and yeah, not everyone is just like a blonde, white, blue-eyed person in Norway. There's lots of other people. That's important to acknowledge, and yeah, that is a stereotype for sure of Norway. The land of eternal darkness. This kind of goes with like the cold weather thing. A lot of Americans just think Norway is always winter and always dark. But not all of Norway is dark for half the year. So this is kind of true for parts of Norway. With stereotypes, there's always some truth to it. Like for America, there are a lot of Americans who are overweight and ignorant. That's true. But not everybody. And it's just stereotypes overgeneralize. That's the problem. Not all of Norway is dark. While it is true the sun never rises on the horizon during winter in the north, it never sets in the summer. So Norway can have lots of darkness or lots of sun. Okay. Yeah, that's important. It's kind of related to the one about Norway isn't always cold. Norwegians are nouveau riche isolationists. Okay, so this is the stereotype that Norwegians are isolated, very closed off, and very rich, and like think that you guys are just the best ever. And this might be based on jealousy. I agree with that. The discovery of oil in Norway transformed the country. It's made Norway into one of the wealthiest nations. The Norway has rejected EU membership. That probably perpetuates the idea that Norway thinks it's better than everyone, or that you guys are very isolated, like that you have not joined the EU, and that you are very wealthy and rich. And I think this stereotype is mostly based off jealousy. People are jealous of Norway. I do think that, actually. Norway is just about the nature. Again, this is a good stereotype. Norwegians really value nature, don't you? Norwegian nature is astonishing, and Norwegians do love nature. But Norway has more to offer than that. Oslo and Bergen are well known, and many of Norway's smaller, charming, maintained towns. Sure, okay. This is a problem that a lot of Americans have. Like, when Americans think of Norway, we think just of snow and fjords and mountains. And that's an awesome thing about Norway. But a lot of Americans don't even know Norway has a lot of towns and beautiful cities and architecture and people. A lot of Americans don't even know that. So I can see where the ignorance about it is the annoying thing about that stereotype. Scandinavia is all the same thing. This is a good one, because this is very true. I can only speak for Americans because I know what Americans think about Norway, and this is true. Kind of like how Americans think England is the same as Scotland, is the same as Ireland. A lot of Americans think Norway is the same as Sweden, the same as Denmark, and it's all the same. Which must be very, very insulting. I understand that. The further you get from the region, the more you encounter people who believe Scandinavia is all the same, or even one country. Absolutely. There's a big difference between Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Iceland. A lot of Americans just don't understand at all the differences or where the countries are. This is a really good one, because I think this is very, very true. Norwegians are barbaric Vikings. Yeah, you can blame TV and movies for this. For a lot of Americans, the only exposure we have to Norway is TV shows like Vikings. Most Norwegians are proud of their Viking ancestors, but we tend to focus more on Vikings' trading networks and skills as explorers and settlers. Oh, interesting. Oh, this is interesting. So it's not that you have a problem with your Viking heritage. It's that a lot of people think of Vikings as very barbaric and murderers and invaders and savages, Whereas a lot of Vikings were very intelligent, they did trading networks, had skills, they were explorers and settlers, and some of them emphasized peace and government. So this misconception about Vikings and Norway's heritage, that's the annoying thing about that stereotype. I see. Okay, okay. Oh, is that it? Oh, I think that's it. All right. Well, this actually turned out to be a very, very fascinating list. And it's true. There's a lot of stereotypes about Norway. There's a lot of stereotypes about every country. Americans have a lot of stereotypes, and but I know about those. What it was really nice to look at this and learn about some of the preconceived things that I thought I knew about Norway and Norwegian culture that are actually stereotypes. There's a lot of things that us Americans assume about Norway that are just overgeneralized and oversimplified. And so I really enjoyed that this list cleared up a lot of that. I learned a lot. So, anyway, if you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment, especially if you're Norwegian, with your thoughts on any of these stereotypes or any of the stereotypes that you think are unfair about Norway. That'd be great to hear about. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Norway and learning about Norwegian culture, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching and see you next time.